been told that America is a Christian country from its origin, one nation under God. We've been taught that our government is for the people, by the people. But what if it's all been just a grand deception? What if the God, worshipped in secret by government leaders in our nation's capital, is in fact our enemy? And many of our leaders have been venerating him secretly through arcane rituals, setting the scene for the incarnation of this ancient entity.
The nation of America has a hidden history that most people aren't really aware of. Okay, these are fallen angel entities over nations, over land, over different areas, but it's all stepping towards the New World Order. They want the New World Order, and the New World Order is actually seen as a good thing in their eyes.
So the third level is tapping into the spirit realm to be able to get your power and to be able to get your direction.
He had found a secret location in DC where the Antichrist would be resurrected. Hey, what's up? This is Justin Fall.
This is Wes Fall.
And you're watching End Times Productions. Belly of the Beast Director's Cut is kind of a brainchild of my brother Wes and I. For about 17 years now, Wes and I have been kind of embarking on this journey of understanding the real history of America. You know, where is America in Bible prophecy? Are there conspiracies at work today that were part of the founding of this nation? Things that were not taught in school, things that were not taught in church. Matter of fact, we've been taught quite the opposite in church and the opposite in schools from what true history tells us. And so Belly of the Beast Director's Cut is a film that really allowed us to shine all of our research that we've kind of been building up over the last 17 years. That's what this film is.
Belly of the Beast is the product of many years, over decades, almost 2 decades worth of research that Justin and I were led to do. We started to see that the things we've been taught all of our lives, this society and the system that we've been born into, is there's a lot of deception in it. And it's set up for that purpose, to keep people blinded, so that, you know, as we're seeing today, it's like all this stuff is actually making sense. All these things that we've been researching for almost 20 years now, 17 to be precise. We first started out to see some of the background information on the history of this nation. You know, we were raised on the David Barton films, which teach an idea that America was founded by Christian fathers and principles, and that's what is at the root of the birth of this nation. And the film isn't saying that there weren't any Christians during the founding of the country. It's not saying that by any means. We have the Puritans are a great example of God's always had a remnant. He's always had his purpose. Today, his plan is still intact. And so that should give us hope as we see the crumbling of the United States from within, as well as the rest of the world. We're seeing the things taking place now that's why this film is so much more applicable today than it was when we made it.
We set out to make this film because we wanted answers. We had heard some claims that were even more extreme than what we believed. Tom Horn had shared some information with us that just seemed very, very just unbelievably out there. But we know that he doesn't just make up weird stuff. So essentially we said, let's go to DC, let's do some digging. If you're gonna do research for any project, you generally want to go to ground zero for that topic. And for Belly of the Beast Director's Cut, Washington, D.C. was ground zero. So we wanted to go to Washington, D.C., and we wanted to dig up some information that we could then present to either validate or disprove the claims that Tom had made. Tom Horn believed that he had found a secret location in D.C. where the Antichrist would be resurrected. This idea that the biblical narrative of the Antichrist is going to suffer a deadly wound, and then he's going to somehow be majestically, magically, supernaturally resurrected, and that was going to be a sign to the world that he is in fact a supernatural king. Now, what's crazy about the idea of a supernatural king is that this goes back to the writings of Manly P. Hall, which I'm sure we'll get into at some point today, but a supernatural king. That is exactly what the world will think when they see somebody rise from the dead. Matter of fact, Jesus Christ himself When he rose from the dead, he brought back others with him. A lot of people don't realize that there was a multitude of people that came back with Jesus. And there's evidence that they died normal lives again. But regardless of that, Jesus did so many feats to prove who he was. Well, the Antichrist, the word anti means in place of, instead of. It can also mean against. But in the scenario of the biblical Antichrist, the one that's still to come, he is instead of Christ. He is a replacement Christ. He is a counterfeit Christ. So it makes perfect sense what the scripture says, that he will suffer a deadly wound and that he's going to come back. And the world is going to marvel at this. But the question is, what are the events going to be that surround this resurrection? Where is this resurrection going to take place? And where does America fit into the picture? These were questions that we needed answered as we set out on this project. Tom Horn was very confident, especially after learning the Masonic system listen, there's a Masonic conspiracy surrounding this specific location in Washington, D.C. We didn't actually get right into the chamber because it's hidden, it's locked, but we got pretty close. And while we were there, we had some very strange things happen that let us know that we were on the right track.
It's basically what started off at Babel. They had a one world system, religion, language, probably economy. They had a one world dictator, Nimrod, and they were, in defiance to God, they were going to build that tower to be able to go up there and, who knows, but God looked at it, and we know how that ended. He came down threw the smackdown. He threw the gauntlet down and said, it's not time. If I were to let this continue, then there's nothing that they wouldn't be able to do. There's elements that are controlling the scenes today that are trying to fulfill all these esoteric prophecies. The same thing that Nimrod started to do. So you got to remember that Satan is the god of this world. Well, they were worshiping the fallen angels back then, right? They had the gods of old. These are the same ones that continue to be worshiped today by various different sects and leaders of government and the members of the deep state. That's why they do the rituals and what have you. But it started off back then, and these people are that it's been passed down from generation to generation, this ideology, this belief system that this Antichrist, this Messiah, this person in place of Christ is going to come. And right now we're seeing that they're setting up his world kingdom to be taken over by him.
The nation of America